G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to DCS World with Mags, and welcome back aboard the A-18C Hornet, and we have a new toy to play with. Yes, the most recent patch to DCS World added the Litening targeting pod for the Hornet, finally. Now, as I understand it, it is not fully functional at this point in time. There are some additions that need to be included to it just yet, but for what we're doing today, it is perfectly fine. And what are we going to do today? Well, we are going to drop some JDAMs in a mission that I've created that is loosely based on a number of real-world missions flown by FA-18 pilots during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Now, for a little bit of extra realism, and because it's something I haven't really done on the channel before, I'm going to be flying this as the real pilots would. As in, I'm not going to be manually using the controls at all during this mission. We're going to be flying the aircraft completely on autopilot, and just manipulating the targeting pod and giving fresh instructions to the autopilot to fly its paths. Now, as you can see, I've already got the targeting pod fired up. It's simply flick the FLIR switch to on and wait till the IR sensors are cooled down. Once that's completed, the camera will pop up, and then much like the Mavericks, all you've got to do is select the screen that you have the targeting pod assigned to, and you can begin searching for targets. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the operations of a targeting pod, the advantage these things offer is absolutely huge. To give you an idea, at the moment we're only about halfway across the Strait of Hormuz. The target that we're looking for is about 30 nautical miles inland of the Iranian coast, and we're already able to start searching for it right now. But before we get too deep into that, we should probably have the JDAM set up, which is what we're doing right now. Target mode is target of opportunity, setting the fusing to instantaneous, and we're setting our mode to mission. Now, we do already have some coordinates up there at the moment. They're not the coordinates that we're actually after, so we're going to be getting some new ones once we've actually located the target, and that's quite simple to do. All you need to do is put the reticle for the targeting pod over the location you want to hit, depress the TDC button, and the coordinates are automatically transferred through to the JDAMs ready to drop. So it's real bloody easy to use and set up now. So anyways, just to give you an idea, the lake off to the left-hand side of our HUD inland at the moment, there's a town to the southwest of that. That's actually where we're scanning for our targets at the moment. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that the targeting pod in its current iteration doesn't have is a little chevron on the HUD to tell us exactly where the pod is pointing. So you can't just look through the HUD and, put the marker over the rough area that you know your target's going to be in, and then look down at your screen in order to be able to fine-tune your aim, as you would with, say, the Mavericks prior to the targeting pod being added in. That should be an option in the future, it's just not something that's available right now. That being said, I have managed to locate the target area. So at this point I'm going to start switching cameras as I'm looking around and zooming in, trying to see whether or not I can locate the target. I do know the approximate area the target is supposed to be. I've had that information already sent through to me and I've been briefed on it, that's why I'm out here. But we still need to locate the exact location ourselves. Now, the actual mission objective here. A detachment of US Marine Corps troops, including a pair of Bradleys, is meant to be setting up a blockade to try and prevent a convoy from making it through this particular town. Unfortunately, they're currently pinned down. Enemy forces have fortified a building, they have mortars, they have snipers which are keeping the troops pinned, and they also have anti-tank weapons which are currently keeping the Bradleys pinned. So our primary objective is to locate this fortified building and hit it with a JDAM. Eliminate the building so the Bradleys can get through and set up their blockade. Now, the convoy is still on its way, so our secondary objective is to locate the convoy from the air, get coordinates on it, and be prepared to make additional JDAM drops on top of that convoy to eliminate it as well, on the off chance that the Bradleys cannot get into position fast enough to intercept and eliminate the convoy themselves. So at this point we're still around 60 seconds to maybe 2 minutes from crossing the Iranian coastline. So we're still more than 30 nautical miles out, and I've already isolated the exact location the building is in. I'm just looking for the specific building that's been occupied and reinforced by enemy unit. Specifically, I'm looking for signs of activity, and I'm using the white hot and black hot infrared cameras, as well as standard camera, as well as I'm searching around. And you can see we're still 30 nautical miles out. We can zoom quite a ways in onto the target zone. And we are still getting some pop-up at this point as well. However, we have just located the building. If you look, you can actually see some troops running patrol around the outside of the building. There appears to be some vehicles parked out in front of it. We have one truck directly in front of the building, and it looks like a mortar and a couple of troops just around the side, so this is what we're after. So just positioning the reticle over the target area, specifically where the mortar is, and depress the switch. And as much as I'm going to fumble with the zoom camera here just a little bit, we are now pretty much ready to drop. However, it did take us a little bit longer to find the targets than I was anticipating, so we're now too close to the target to actually drop. We're actually almost immediately to the south of the target. So we have to make some adjustments to our autopilot. Now again, I haven't really shown any of the autopilot functionality in the Hornet on channel before because, quite frankly, it's actually really boring to fly on autopilot. As a general rule, all I've ever used on channel is attitude hold. But as you can see, I've just executed a right-hand turn, and all it takes to do is in the top left-hand corner of the lower MFD, there is a switch marked HDG, or heading. It's a pretty simple switch. It auto-centers, and you can either flick it to the left or the right. If you flick it to the left, a little indicator around the outside of the compass heading on the HDI will go left. If you flick it to the right, the little indicator will go to the right. And if you have the aircraft set to follow that indicator, it will automatically start to turn the second that indicator starts to move. And you just set it on whatever heading that you want, and the plane will just fly itself there. That's it. So none of the flying you actually see in this particular mission was me touching the joystick at all. I mean, outside of hitting the switches on my HoTaS, I don't even move the throttle. I had the throttle set when I was on approach to the target zone. So all I'm doing here is watching the HDI in the bottom just to see where I am in relation to the target and my nav points, and I'm watching the TWR timer on the HUD. The TWR is time to weapons release, and currently we're about 1 minute and 10 seconds out. So if I could turn the aircraft instantly 180 degrees at the moment, I'm about a 60 seconds out of dropping the weapon. To counter in time to turn the aircraft back around, I'm going to want that out at about 2 minutes before I begin the turn back, in which case I will just hit the little heading switch on the lower MFD and swing the heading for the aircraft around 180 degrees until it's lined up on a target run, and then we just drop the bomb. Alright, so a quick fast forward through time here, and we are getting ready to make our turn. And there we go. Now, the plane doesn't turn around 180 degrees instantly, of course. It does have a nice, long, slow, wide bank on autopilot. So, just going to keep watching it as we're making our turn and just continually tweak the heading indicator so that we keep turning through to the point where we are actually lined up for our bomb drop. And that's really all there is to it. So, bring the plane around and get ready to release. Okay, so our turn has been completed and we are now on approach to the target. We're zoomed in, we're actually quite a ways out at the moment. Now this is one thing that is going to surprise the hell out of anybody who hasn't actually seen a JDAM drop out of the F-18 yet. You are quite a ways away from the target when you actually release. The bomb will glide quite a distance. So right now, 8 seconds to in range, 7, 6, 5, 4, and there we go. Now if you look down directly below the right fuel tank, you can actually see the cluster of smoke for where that bomb is going to go. You can see we are actually quite a ways away from where the target is, but the bomb will just glide itself all the way into target. So with the JDAMs and the targeting pod now, it's actually going to be very straightforward to locate fixed and mobile short-range air defences around a target zone and take them all out without actually putting the plane in any risk. Anyways, what I was doing here is using the autopilot to give us a bank off to the right. The idea was to delay my time over target so we'd get a good look at the bomb going directly in on the target building. Unfortunately, I messed this up, so the fuel tank wound up blocking the line of sight of the targeting pod right at the point of impact, so you'll just have to deal with some external shots of the bomb making its way in. So pretty much exactly where I aimed it, exactly as you would expect. And once I managed to complete the turn back, I got the targeting pod back on target, was able to confirm the destruction of the building, and we can see the Marines making their movement in to secure the building, or what's left of it, and the Bradleys making their way forward in order to set up the blockade of the road and try and intercept the convoy. And speaking of the convoy, we should probably start trying to find that. And it did actually take about 4 or 5 minutes to locate the convoy, mostly just scanning the roads to the north, until we finally come across the convoy as it was making its way south, or in this case, making its way west. And of course, now that we have the location of the convoy, I can once again instruct the autopilot to swing the plane around and line up for a run on these trucks. Now, since the trucks are mobile targets, we obviously want to lock them up and have the targeting pod actually track them as they're moving. Hitting right on sensor control flicks it over to point track, and then it's just a matter of getting it over the trucks and actually managing to get it to latch on. This was a little bit more difficult than I was hoping. It's mainly because I'm using zoom level 9 to actually lock in at the moment. We're actually quite a ways out of the targets, and I am in the middle of a turn, but I did manage to get the camera to lock on eventually. It just took running the targeting pod's reticle over the target a couple of times before it finally latched on. So at this point, pretty much ready to take out the convoy ourselves. Not that I had to worry about it. As it turns out, we took out our primary objective fast enough, and the Bradleys were able to get into position to set up the blockade before the convoy got past, and they have just lit the 01st truck of the convoy up. Having said that, I am still going to drop one bomb, of course, because I'm not going to waste the opportunity to blow something up. So, just banking onto target, still following the autopilot. Time to weapon release is 15 seconds. And even though we are in the bank, that's actually not an issue. We can still release even though we're turning, and the Bradleys have just blown the crap out of the first truck. So just adjusting my heading and quickly grabbing new coordinates. We are in range, and bomb is released. And with our second JDAM away, that is pretty much all she wrote for this mission. All 4 trucks of the convoy have been taken out. My bomb was a little bit late. The Bradleys can claim all 4 of those kills. I just, crated the wrecks. And my first drop pretty much straight down the throat of the mortar position at the front of the fortified building that we had to take out that was holding up our Marines and our Bradleys to begin with. And overall, this is a pretty reasonable representation of what actually flying close air support with JDAMs looks like when you're flying the F-18 Hornet. There's honestly not a great deal to it. Now, there is some other things you can do with the targeting pod as well. I am still in the process of learning all of its features, so those will be coming to videos in the future, but you can just see right here, JDAMs and a targeting pod is bloody dangerous, even if the pod isn't fully featured out yet. But anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to click the like button if you did, share the video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And if you're interested in some interesting aviation merch, check the MagzTV link that should be on screen in the next few moments. The first of 2 F-18 designs is now available. The first design is based on World War II US Navy propaganda posters, but featuring the F-18 Hornet. The second one will be more of a traditional design, but there will be 2 up and available, and I think this one looks kind of okay. Let me know what you think down below, and until next time, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.